So if you're watching this video, you just bought a 2 foot by 4 foot quarter pipe or an 18 by 3 foot. The reason that we're using this video for either or is because the ramps are extremely similar. So for the purposes of not having redundant content, we're just gonna show putting together a 2 foot by 4 foot quarter pipe. But as stated before, it can be used for 18 by 3 foot or a 2 foot by 4 foot quarter pipe. So once you order, you're gonna get a box like this that shows up at your house. It is 24 inches by 48 inches by about 9 inches tall. It is pretty heavy, it's about 105 pounds, so definitely use a friend or a family member to help maneuver it around and lift with your legs, not with your back. All right, so on top here, we got the final layer of the birch ply. You're gonna have 2 pieces like this. If it is an 18 by 3 foot ramp, they're gonna each be 18 inches wide to make the overall 3 foot. If it's a 2 foot by 4 foot, like this one, you're gonna get 2 pieces that are 2 foot by 4 foot. So 2 side by side, make your full 4 foot. Here's your transition sides. You're gonna have 2, whether it's an 18 by 3 or a 2 by 4. It's gonna look like this. So you got your top deck here, you got your pre-drilled holes. Put your burned logos on the outside. That's gonna be the better looking face of the plywood. So once you pull out your 2 sides, lay them out about 4 or 5 feet or so apart and just get them ready to start putting the screws in and then laying down the 2x4s. So next, I'm gonna pull out my 2x4s. Just kinda lay them out right here. All right, so I laid out my 2 sides. I got 9 2x4s here, the transition, the deck, one at the bottom. I'm gonna pull out the instructions. So if you're not into the video or you'd rather reference the instructions, they're pretty easy to follow. They're kind of IKEA inspired. So yeah, same information here. And then in this bag, you'll also find the hardware to attach the plate at the bottom of the ramp, which is here. This 16 gauge galvanized sheet metal, which is going to go at the bottom. So we'll get into that at the very end. Set this off to the side. You got your 2 bags of screws in here. These greenish gray ones are for the sides. They're 2.5 inches long to attach the 2x4s. And then these galvanized shiny ones are the 1 5/8 to attach all of the layers and the top deck. Next, you got the deck top. We got the coping. Coping has this 1x2 bolted to it. And then last but not least, we got the 3/8 inch sides. So there's 2 of these. They're a little bit shy of 4 foot in length and they're 2 foot wide. So if you got an 18 by 3 foot quarter, these are gonna be obviously 18 inches wide and a little bit shorter. And same thing with the birch, as we mentioned earlier. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is prep all your screws for the sides. And these, you can either just use your fingers and get them started. This just kind of makes it easier. We've talked about this in a bunch of videos. You can use a hammer and tap them in if you want, or you can just use your fingers, or you can use a drill. And this is just gonna kind of speed things up so that when it comes time to attach the 2x4s, you're not scrambling for putting a screw in or delaying the process. So this just kind of streamlines things. So now that you got all your 2.5 inch screws loaded, you're ready to attach the sides. So just pick one, tilt it up. I usually start with this top one here. So I'm gonna grab a 2x4. I'm gonna center this screw right on to the center of the 2x4. And I'm gonna go ahead and attach my other side. Eyeball the center of this screw right on the center of the 2x4. Get the face of the 2x4 flush with the plywood. And then at this point, I'm gonna throw the coping in before I attach this one, just so I have some wiggle room in here. Make sure it's all the way in. Good there, good there. And then one. And then at this point, since it's only a 4-foot span, this will hold. So I'm gonna go ahead and attach like 3 on this side before I jump over to the other. I've got a fully assembled frame all ready for my sheeting. So at this point you can either throw the deck on if you want, or you can just do layers. I'm going to start with layers. I got the 3/8 ply here. So check out the stickers, points towards the coping. So this is the top, one there. And wherever you see these little blue dots, that's where a screw is going to go into the 2x4s. And then just pick a side, left or right, doesn't really matter. Get that top corner super flush, press it down. And at this point, you don't really need to worry about the overhang at the bottom. We can correct that in a little bit. We're just worried about this top corner sitting as high as it can towards the coping. So I'm gonna throw a screw in there. One over here. Now at this point, we can kind of correct this overhang. So we just need this sheet to shift over a little. So I'm gonna tap it, so I'm pretty flush there. So that looks like a good edge, and then attach the rest. All right, so now I'm gonna do the same thing for this other side. This one you can pretty much bend and get all the way into place. Put some pressure on it with your knee or your foot. Kind of kick it up. Make sure it's as high as it can go towards the coping. And when these screws are going in, you don't want to bury them. You want the head to be pretty much flush with the ply. If you bury it, they're not grabbing as well. All right, so I got my 3/8 fully attached, ready to attach the birch. Birch is pretty much the same process, just instead of going into blue dots, I'm going to be going into these countersinks here. So I'm going to start with this one that has the Burn logo on it. Burn logo goes on the outside. Definitely kind of drives me crazy when I see people post them and it's in the middle, but if you think that looks better, go for it. And then just for the sake of preserving it, making it look fresh when it's all done, I'm going to pop my shoe off. Tapping it over to get this edge as flush as possible. So I like it right there. Start with the top middle, and then just go middle all the way down. And the reason I'm going middle down rather than bouncing around to the outsides is because this is going to help keep the sheet as straight as possible. Because if you say you do all of one side, you might cause the sheet to sort of shift. So doing all the middles is going to help keep this straight. So now I'm going to grab my other sheet, follow this sticker, coping is at the top. I'm going to try to focus on this middle seam and get it as tight as I can right here. Obviously all the way up to the coping again. And then same thing, I'm going to start with the middle. So we got our birch on. If you ordered skate light, you'll have your skate light. So now that we have the birch done, we're just going to throw the 3/4 inch ply on the deck. And for that, we're going to use the same screws that we used on the surface. These 1 5/8 right here. Alright, so top deck is on and solid, and all that's left is going to be this plate at the bottom. So it's got 3 countersinks and holes. You're going to put it down here at the bottom, and you basically want about 1 inch hanging off the end. So you can start with it kind of high, and then just go down until you feel it hit the ground. So right there I have about an inch. And it's also pretty much in line with where the 3/4 ply stops. So you can use that as a reference as well. Now that you got your plate exactly where you want it, right in line with the end of that 3/4, you're gonna need to drill holes into the surface layers. For this part, you're gonna need a 3/16 drill bit. That is not included in the kit. Most people have them at home. If you don't, you can kind of use some screws that are left over from the kit and just kind of screw through and bore out a hole. But hopefully you have a 3/16 drill bit at home. Then back to that bag that we talked about that had the instructions. It has all of your hardware for this part. So just pop that right through these machine screws. And the reason that we do this rather than regular old screws going into wood is because over time those screws going into wood are going to wiggle themselves to the point that your plate gets so loose that it might fall off. So this is crucial for the longevity of your plate holding on well. So once you pop all those in, you're just gonna flip it up onto the back side, put your washer there, and then put the nut on. And you can just go finger tight all the way, and then we'll torque them down with the drill. And usually if you do these finger tight to the point that the wood is squeezing down onto that nut, just the torque of an impact gun like this, you can kind of get away without using a nut driver or any kind of socket on the other side. And you just want to get it until that washer crunches down into the wood ever so slightly, so it's nice and tight. Now our plate's on, nice and secure, and this quarter pipe is ready to skate. Thing that I'll mention that could be different, if you ordered the 2x4 or your 18x3 quarter pipe with caster wheels, those are going to get attached to the back right here. That is why there's a good amount of leftover screws here in case you did order it with casters. You're just going to put those right on the edge on the back of these 2x4s. Use these 1 5/8 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4 casters right there, and then you can tip your quarter pipe up onto its backside and roll it around. But that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching this video. Thank you for making a purchase with Keen Ramps. Check out all of our other obstacles. We're gonna be having more and more of these assembly videos as well as other content on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe, like it, share it, all that good stuff. And thanks again.